Right, hey guys, how are we doing? Back on another video from Chuck, and we are checking out what if Urahara and Ulquiorra actually fought. So I'm imagining this is the moment where Ulquiorra and other dude popped up at that time and didn't actually like really intervene when Urahara was there. It'd be an interesting one because Urahara is like up there. I would love to see what would actually happen if Urahara like went in and was like, stopping you now, going in on it, because he was one of the 4 people that like Aizen was like, duh, let's be wary of. So yeah, what if Urahara like beat Ulquiorra? I don't know. He had his second release, which was pretty damn powerful. Ichigo had to go hollow form maximum to like go in on him. But let's see how he goes on this. I wonder if it's with Chuck.
Hey, what is popping, guys?
Yo.
So, in December, me and a very special YouTuber went over a versus battle between 2 of the most popular...
It was a good video, that. I really enjoyed that.
Byakuya Kuchiki and Kenpachi Zaraki.
Yeah.
And at the end of the video, we basically asked if people wanted to see more scenarios. And one of those that people were really interested in was Kisuke Urahara against Ulquiorra.
Goddamn.
And they went to the world of the living. We're basically gonna go over like what their abilities are, and then like the narrative of
Cool. Feats of scaling. Cool. Oh, is it with Chuck as well? Is it with Chuck?
We'll basically go from there.
Was it with Clyde even? Is what I'm
That
asking.
very special individual is none other than the man who came.
Yeah,
on that
cool.
house, being Clyde Kaido.
Nice.
What's up, buddy-o?
Thank you for having me on again, Chuck. We're here
Awesome.
with another collab, and yeah, basically we handled Kenpachi versus Byakuya pretty well after we...
It was a good video. It was a good video.
A pretty good job of that video, so today we wanted to make a
Yo.
video which basically talks about what would have actually happened if Ulquiorra and Yami did actually throw
Fight at the time, yeah, what the hell would have happened?
Because it's pretty interesting to think about when you actually read what Ulquiorra said to Urahara and Yoruichi. He said something along the lines of, you know what would happen if we were to fight right now. Now, we obviously know that he's talking to them in regards to the fact that they have injured people around them, but also he does seem awfully confident in fighting Urahara.
Yeah, he's like, I could go for you, I could take
and
you.
then later on, we even see that Yoruichi is quite surprised at how strong those Espada actually are, and is quite heavily damaged just from landing blows on
God, that
Yami.
food looks amazing.
We decided this would be a pretty cool
Oh, it makes me want to go eat sushi.
Now, we do want to be really specific with this too. We are only talking about Urahara and these characters before the time skip, so anything that they really did
Right.
in the war
Yeah. Don't
not
count.
relevant
That
to
makes
the
sense,
video
yeah, because it'd be a
because
stupid
the
scenario,
scandal
yeah.
itself becomes very different and complicated once you factor in the time skip, so just to be clear at the start,
Yeah,
when they all faced off at the very start of the Urahara arc.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's actually really interesting to think about Yami at that point of the story because Ulquiorra really specifies that Yami has neither mastered Pesquisa, so he was blitzed by Ichigo and cut when he shouldn't have been at that stage. Like, he should have actually been able to block that attack with his spiritual
His
pressure,
arm
but
cut
he
off, yeah, it's like,
couldn't
whoa,
because
okay,
he
cool.
couldn't read Ichigo's power. And then also, it's really interesting to think about this. So, Yoruichi actually states during the Soul Society arc, when she actually appears in her Shinigami form rather than the cat form, that she could only do a few flash steps because she was actually out of her prime after not fighting for such a long time. That's a valid thing to bring up, but the problem that sort of comes up when it comes to the other side of the argument is that Yami also wasn't at his peak at all whatsoever when
Yeah, he was nowhere near.
Yoruichi.
Yeah, Jesus.
We know this because later on during the actual Hueco Mundo invasion, when all of the Shinigami go to Hueco Mundo and Chad fights Chigami and Renji is also there and Rukia, Chad makes a note that he is actually multiple times bigger than before. And we know this is actually important because Yami has to store a lot of spiritual pressure to be able to perform an actual release because his release is much different than all of the other Espada. He's actually quite special and yeah, the point I'm making here is that neither of the characters at that point in the story were at their peaks, which means if you want to bring up the Yoruichi point, like, oh, well, she wasn't really at full power, she was protecting Orihime, you know, she was in a bad position right there. The fact of the matter is, Yami also wasn't at his peak either.
No, he was not. Like, there's
injured just from connecting blows with Yami without even taking damage. The data books also say that one of his Ceres is powerful enough to potentially kill her.
Fire him a laser.
Again, she's not really in a position to defend herself well, but the fact that he can use an attack that could kill her is pretty crazy.
Yeah, and then
later on,
like,
when Yoruichi and Urahara face off against Aizen, Yoruichi actually appears with anti-hero armor, which was obviously made with the idea of, well, that Yami guy's hero was pretty damn strong.
I need something to be able to like do something against it. Yeah.
So what does that tell you? Well, it tells me that yeah, the Espada that they ran into were a pretty big deal, even
Yep.
back then at the very
At
start
the time,
of the arc, and
yeah,
when they
even
were
at the
only
time,
in
yeah.
their base forms. Pretty crazy and pretty impressive for Yami.
So one of the biggest debates in the community is regarding the power of the Espada. Now, if you look at it from a surface level, you'll be like, oh, Aizen ranked
They're
him,
numbers,
and
it's
Stark
fine,
is number
yeah.
one, so he's obviously the strongest one. At best, you can argue that he is the strongest in base overall, but when you analyze like the narrative and the data books, and obviously the fights that take place in the story, it's more so like Yami is the strongest one, and Ulquiorra is like, close second.
Yeah.
So, for example, we do know that Yami is literally zero. He has releases. He fought against goddamn Kenpachi and Byakuya.
Yeah, he fights them both, so they're cool.
And he forced them to, well, I wouldn't say necessarily force them, but he did give them like a, somewhat difficult battle.
Oh yeah,
Kenpachi
they
did
struggled.
forward,
They didn't find it
guys
easy.
do imply that he was actually like getting beat up a bit, but he was obviously injured from fighting Noitora. And then with Ulquiorra, there's like this really great amount of trust that Aizen holds in him, because he actually like sent him out on a lot more missions, and with the other Espada, he
definitely had a lot more trust in Ulquiorra than anyone else.
because he wanted to analyze like her power, and also when he left to go fight in the fake Karakuda town, he was like, okay, Ulquiorra, like I'll leave this to you.
You defend
you know what to do,
our
just
homeland.
safeguard the castle, all that. And then, like, once the war progresses, we see, like, Baragon getting defeated by his own power, which was stupid. And then, we have Stark getting defeated, and, Harabel not performing as good as...
So Aizen just takes her out. It's like, oh, okay.
Like 3 or 4 people at the same time, so... but yeah, like, when he saw them all get defeated, he was like, you guys are pretty disappointing. But then with Ulquiorra, he doesn't really seem to be upset with him. I mean, like, he's like, oh, it's pretty interesting, like, the power that Ichigo showed against him, the whole Vassal.
Yeah, he wanted Ichigo to fight him, like, everything was meant to be so that, like, Ichigo level up, wasn't it?
So it's really weird when it comes to the anime and manga, because we don't know exactly if Aizen actually seen the battle, because in the anime it's shown that he has, like, this screen where he can watch all the battles, and when he talks to Ichigo in the manga, he actually references the second release form, and he has like a visual representation of it, but also it might be telling the audience like, hey, you guys remember this moment, this is what
right, it's like, yeah, let's recap.
The point here that I'm making is, it's interesting when Aizen talks about that battle, because when he talks about Harabel and Stark and all of the Espada that are in Katakura Town, he's really disappointed with how they perform. Like, he literally says he's disappointed, then he just slashes Harabel.
Yeah.
If they were impressive, he probably would have still had Harabel with him. I mean, why not? Like, he brought Ging with him. Wouldn't you still want to have, like, a pretty strong Espada next to you helping you out, considering how loyal she was? And, like, wouldn't you want to help out Baragon and Stark? Like, he just didn't care. Even Stark looks at him and he's like, he sort of realized, he's like, I don't think this guy even gives a like...
Yeah, he don't care about us. This was a waste of my time.
Think about. So, one, Aizen's impressed by the power that Ichigo attained in that battle, being the Basso Lorde form, which is the form that he was expecting to fight Ichigo with. Like, he thought Ichigo would whip that out against him. And, in Everything But the Rain, basically, you get to see the Basso Lorde form, but it's in a much weaker state, and Aizen's really curious about how it's going to turn out.
Yeah, I want to see how that's going to evolve, yeah.
His mother gives birth to him, so on and so forth. And anyway, Aizen's fascinated by this power, but when it comes to the other Espada, he's pretty disappointed, right? Now, there is a lot of emphasis on Espada like Yami and Ulquiorra being the strongest due to a lot of things like the narrative, the data books, and so on. It's obvious that although Stark has number one,
Yami is the
it's kind of just like a placeholder number, because Yami turns out to be the secret number 0. Ulquiorra has a hidden release form, which, interestingly, if Aizen doesn't actually know about that form, like Ulquiorra said, that means that the form is much stronger than we believe.
Yeah.
You could interpret it as, well, Aizen put Ulquiorra as number 4, as like a number which symbolizes a lot of things in Japan, which was obviously Kubo's doing, not Aizen's, but also he put that there as like sort of like a fake number. Meanwhile, he had a secret release form. He trusts him more than any other Espada. He sends him on more missions than any other Espada.
Well, yeah, I suppose you would do that. Like, you would put like a really high number up there, yeah.
Follow Ulquiorra because he respects his strength. Just more and more crazy evidence that Ulquiorra is in fact the strongest, and then Ulquiorra fights against the Vasto Lorde, which, I mean, it doesn't really need to be said, but like the Vasto Lorde is pretty damn
ridiculous,
strong.
Man.
He doesn't do too bad against them. Like, yes, he
Redonkulous.
does get defeated, but interestingly enough, when it comes to Ulquiorra's durability, he actually says to the Vasto Lorde, he says, finish me off.
Do it.
And he lets his guard down.
Do it. He's like, go on, do it.
Survives it. Now, although his internal organs get destroyed to the point where he can't regenerate them, the fact of the matter is, he did have the durability to be able to
Yeah,
survive
he
the
did.
attack and died.
Yeah, he
later on,
didn't
but
die
still
straight
walked
away.
around for a while and was like sort of there. Like that's a pretty good feat considering he didn't even really defend the attack. So
Didn't even try. He was just like, go at you.
I don't really care.
Joker
but
walking down the street to Batman with a bike. I want you to hit me.
All the stuff to do with Ulquiorra and Yami, and leaves, Waco Mundo all under Ulquiorra's responsibility, and then leaves Yami in Waco Mundo with his secret release forms, and he's secretly the strongest one. It's like, who was he planning to have them fight? People like Kenpachi, Byakuya, and Urahara. Like, that's why he trapped them all in Waco Mundo. The data books do say that, Aizen wanted to reach immortality before fighting Kenpachi because he knew the potential of Kenpachi's power. Just more and more evidence that, leaving the Sparta in Waco Mundo makes sense because, yeah, there were some pretty strong people in there, and there you go.
They ain't no laughing matter, yo. They ain't no joke.
Yeah, there are some pretty good instances in the whole battle with Master Lord Ichigo that could imply that Ulquiorra's second release is pretty abnormal in comparison to like a typical release, because we know that Espada have access to the Zero and then the Gran Rey Zero, which is stronger than that. And then this fool literally has another Zero stronger than that called Zero Oscuras, which is pretty much like his own special thing. And then he has the Lanza de Relámpago, which is even stronger than that.
It's so fast.
I think we should go over like the whole battle between him and Ichigo, not only within like the anime.
Oh, the Hellverse as well.
Because
ooh,
according to
good movie.
Kubo, he does imply that is like how he
Canon.
wanted the battle to really
Yeah, he wanted it to go that way.
How he visualized it to be, because he might have been under a rush when he was writing it at the time.
Kubo said that during the Hellverse representation of Ichigo versus Ulquiorra, that basically this is the version of the fight which he wanted to actually show. Like it's the more canon one in his brain.
Damn.
If you want to discard that comment, let's say for a second that quote never happened by Kubo. Well, the Hellverse movie is really handy for this debate because basically you have characters like Yamamoto who states that the Vasto Lorde could perform a feat which even he thought was
destroyed
impossible.
all the chains of hell.
And then also
it could destroy hell itself.
It also helps out Ulquiorra because again, if Aizen doesn't know about his second release form, and Ulquiorra is scaling to a character that, has power that surprises Yamamoto, and Ichigo thinks it might destroy the world when he talks
it has the potential of destroying everything.
It's pretty cool when it comes to Ulquiorra because that means that him even being able to tag the Vasto Lorde or shoot attacks at the Vasto Lorde which can cancel out its Zeros and vice versa, that's really good scaling for Ulquiorra because then that puts Ulquiorra in a position where, well, maybe he is at that sort of ballpark of power where, if it was just, base Shikai Aizen, right, without Kyokusei Getsu, just for the sake of a hypothetical battle, then maybe like this Ulquiorra in his second release form would actually be a threat, and in that same level of power, basically it's said that all Espada have to follow two rules. Espada rank 4 and higher can't release below the canopy of Los Noches, or they might accidentally destroy Los Noches. That's a really cool feat.
That's class. That's really like, whoa.
Espada are not allowed to discharge Gran Rey Zero below the canopy of Los Noches. What this shows me is that the actual multiplier of the Gran Rey Zero is over 10 times, because if you take Xylel Oropero Grans, right, as an example, one of the weakest Espada, if he uses Gran Rey Zero, that means that he can put himself on the same level of power as the top 4 Espada. Now, listen to what I'm saying here. I'm not saying he could beat them in a fight or even battle them.
Right.
It's more so he's able to achieve a level of power that they can reach by just transforming, showing me that his level of attack potency is over 10 times, because by them releasing they can destroy Los Noches, but if he was to use that Zero,
it would do the same.
Destroy Los Noches too, and he's banned from doing so. We actually seen this too because Grimmjow used a Gran Rey Zero against Ichigo, and Harley-Bell and all of her Fruction were basically just like, why the hell did you use that? Like,
what are you doing?
To do that, and it distorted the atmosphere below the canopy of Los Noches. So that's pretty crazy too. You could also say,
interesting.
Why didn't it destroy Los Noches? That's obviously an inconsistent statement. Well, Ichigo actually blocked the attack, so he probably absorbed most of the power.
There you go.
So that's obviously why. But even still, it distorted the atmosphere, so it shows you the level of power that those Zeros could potentially have. Now, well, basically, it just shows you the level of power that those Zeros could potentially have in the multiplier. And then also, what's cool is, if Ulquiorra goes into his second release form, he gets a 100 times increase in power, potentially more, but we'll say 100 just to keep it as simple as possible. He then uses a Gran Rey Zero. He can then multiply that 100 times by 10 times.
Jesus.
Right? He fires the Zero.
Jesus.
And then he also has Seto Oscuras, which, you know, that multiplier is... It's not really relevant to what I'm going to say, but again, another increase in power. And then the Lanzador Relampago, which he whips out after his Seto Oscuras don't work because they keep getting cancelled by the Paso Lotte Ceros. He's basically just like, yo, catch this, and he throws this spear, and it's literally like firing a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, it just blows everything up.
Even Udi is like...
Yeah, what is Urahara doing, I guess, yeah.
That's insane. So, yeah, when it comes to Ulquiorra's attack potency...
We need to see what Urahara can do.
100 times stronger than his base.
Does he have prep time?
His own attacks that he can pull out can multiply his potency by anywhere from 10 to like 50 times. But we'll say 10 to 20 to be fair, because we don't want to go too overboard. But
yeah,
this man's ridiculous. Like if
he's ridiculous. He's ridiculous.
Potency, if it's 20 times 100, that's 2,000. Like he's pretty strong. I'm just saying, he's pretty strong.
It's pretty evident that it would be stronger than like Seto Oscuras because he literally said it was pretty difficult to like maintain, and he tells Ichigo like, please stay still, like I haven't really like fully mastered this ability. So what we're trying to detail here is that Ulquiorra, in comparison to the other Espada, except for Yami at least, he is just basically on a whole other level to them, and this is really important because Kisuke was already finding it difficult somewhat to deal with, a much weaker Yami at the time. But obviously, we are going to go over how Kisuke did against Aizen later on.
One of
the biggest things that Kisuke Urahara has is that he is a really good strategist. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like if he's got prep time, whoa,
he's trying to analyze and he'll try to strategize like on the get-go. But when he fights off against Yami, he actually showcases two very important abilities, or I guess you could say like a wild card, right? So one of those is that if he analyzes an attack, he can basically like study like the pattern of the person's muscles when they fire it, and also the reishi.
Yeah, like he gets what's going on with it. He understands it.
He does have difficulty with this, but if he is able to do so, he can counter that attack with his own. And another one is that he is basically like fast enough that he was able to just catch Yami completely off guard, and he was able to actually use a Gigai for like a portable soul to basically make Yami think that he actually killed him then and there.
That's class.
Like,
damn.
Like it was a decoy.
Joke.
And he does use this against Aizen as well. And due to being like one of the most skilled characters in the series, he can trap Kidos or thank Kidos, and he can also seal off the vents of a person's wrist to disable spiritual pressure, which would basically like make that character's own power work against them, which he did use against Aizen. And when he faced off against Aizen, he actually tells him like, oh, you are pretty much like one of the only people that I ever thought was, smarter than me, And he does say that once he got the Hokyoku that, he transcended him, which is pretty obvious. But when he fights off against Urahara, he's obviously being casual,
Yeah, he ain't sweating.
He says that he doesn't really have a reason to guard against her attacks. But he does say in one instance, like when Urahara traps like a bunch of Kidos and he spams him, he does say at the end that if he let like those attacks hit him without the Hokyoku, he might have been done so then and there.
There you go.
And there is like this narrative implication that Ishin, Yoruichi, and Kisuke are like, I guess like the best last-ditch effort to defeat Aizen.
Yeah.
And it seems that they are stronger than the vast majority of the captains as well. As I said, Aizen was being casual, and he was letting attacks hit him. But we do see that Ishin's Getsuga Tensho was actually able to cut through that Chrysalis Aizen, and then all the other captains, although yes, most of them were exhausted from fighting, the Espada and stuff like that, they really couldn't land a single hit on him, pretty much, And we see these three are able to hold their own.
Yeah, they do a good job fighting Aizen. Like, whoa, it's absolutely sick.
There is something pretty cool. So at the start of that arc, Aizen sends Yami and Ulquiorra to the world of the living to go and analyze Ichigo's power. And he does actually warn them that there's actually 3 individuals in the world of the living which might give them a genuine fight, and they should be wary of them. And these 3 are obviously Yoruichi, Urahara, and Ishin.
Yeah.
Now, how he found out that Ishin got his powers back, pretty weird, but also
that is a strange one. Never thought about that. Yeah, because he's just like been hiding out for a very long time. But never mind.
Would return eventually when the hollow was passed on to Ichigo, so that's not that crazy. But the narrative of the story shows that when those three end up facing off against Aizen later on, it was in fact those three, which were the three that he mentioned.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool because he's basically saying like, yo,
It's
I'm
consistent.
gonna send you two out there to go deal with seeing how strong Ichigo is. Just go and check on him for me. That'd be cool. But just be careful of those three. They're pretty strong.
Yeah, they're
so that's cool because
mindful.
he's not
Be
even
mindful.
that scared that they might get killed. He's more just saying like, just be wary of those guys. So that's pretty interesting to me because it shows me that those two Espada are in the same sort of realm of power in regards to, well, Aizen's given them like multiple secret release forms and all this huge power with the Hogyoku. Like, he's confident that, like, maybe not necessarily they would just go in there and just, like, you know, one-shot them and
absolutely
win,
slap,
like,
but
he knows that they actually could fight with them. And the story does show us that that's the case because, again, Ulquiorra makes the cocky comment towards Yoruichi and Urahara, like, yo, you guys know what would happen if we fought.
If we
and then
did.
also the next day, Yoruichi's like, yo, these guys are stronger than we thought. So, just to mention all this stuff again, there's just so much narrative evidence that it's actually crazy when it comes to how strong Ulquiorra and Yami actually are.
Urahara's like best attributes isn't like his raw power or his speed.
Like you're saying, strategy.
But it is more so of his intelligence.
Yeah, he's a very clever man.
And he can try to catch an opponent off guard, try to use their own power against them. And one thing I want to bring up as well is that what I said earlier is that he can basically try to seal off the vents that a Soul Reaper has, which is where like their reishi or spiritual pressure flows from. And he would have theoretically tried to use that to have Aizen's own power kill him. Now, this doesn't mean that Kisuke's own power can do that,
Yeah. He's like using that ability against them,
Against them. So, you can think of it, if you've read, like, the Marvel comics, like Doctor Strange, he's fought against characters that are much stronger than him, but with his spells and his abilities, he can basically use their own power
against them,
So with Doctor Strange, like, he can try to use their own power against them. So it's a similar thing right there. But yeah, like, I think you can go over like the specifics of those Kido, because he's like a master at that, and he should like pretty much know all of them.
Yeah, so I'd like to specify on a lot of the scaling at that part of the arc too, to give you guys a perspective on how strong Urahara should be at that point in the story. So there's a couple of interesting things. So the Kido that Chuck mentioned that he uses, where he places it on the wrists of Aizen to make it basically does this. So it traps the spiritual pressure in your body, and then it starts to like rotate around your body, and it expands and starts to power up until you basically explode from the inside.
So like cool. I like the visual explanation we're getting here.
Things like speed and getting punched in the face are obviously going to be in the way of that working on anybody. But if, say, Yamamoto was standing still and he didn't defend himself and he did that to Yamamoto, he could use that attack on Yamamoto and it would work. So it's a very useful ability. But basically, Aizen says if it wasn't for the Hogyoku and him being able to transform, he pretty much would have been defeated there and then. So if that was done against Shikai Aizen, it would have been GG. Now, in Aizen's battle with all of them, he's not even using the Kyoku Soigetsu, which is why that when they use like tag team attacks, they're able to basically have success. And Urahara even says, it's like, yeah, you're fighting like pretty unusual. Like you would have normally never attacked me after like the first attack didn't work. Like you're fighting out of character pretty much. And then Aizen's like, I have no need to guard myself, and I'm this much stronger than you guys. So what happens is basically when he's in his Silver Surfer form, Urahara and Yoruichi all try to attack him at once. They have some success here and there with some combination attacks, but
a couple
the
of moves
problem becomes that Ishin basically says, it feels like when I swing at him, he's not even there. Only someone on the same level of power would be able to actually perceive his real power. And that's basically telling us as an audience that even though they're having this, what looks to be success, they're not even doing anything well against Aizen.
They're not actually achieving anything.
Is that Aizen says pretty much, alright, I'm sick of dicking around, I'm going to actually show you how strong I am, and he one-shots all of them, like, in singular attacks, like, they're all just done. He then transforms again, and then he's like, alright,
quit messing around now.
For a town, and then that's it. It kind of sucks when it comes to Urahara's position here in the battle, because all the success that he actually did have against this, Hogyoku Aizen, it wasn't even successful. It was just Aizen messing around with all of them too. So to scale Urahara to say, Silver Surfer Aizen, and that makes him transcendent, or blah blah blah, whatever. Because it took 3 of them to even land blows.
And then they weren't.
And even then,
and he was just messing. So it
it
downplays it.
So although we didn't see Kisuke use like his Bankai like during that arc, and he was basically keeping it like a secret, like even the Queen's like, what the hell does this dude like have, And obviously like it would be like his Bankai at that point in time, like we're not gonna use like the power that he gained during the war arc, that would be dumb. But this Bankai allows him to stitch himself, you know, like repair any wounds, and he can also like try to manipulate like a person's limbs, like he did to Askin.
Crazy.
This Bankai works on improving any mistakes and, you know, making himself stronger. Now with the whole general Bankai multiplier, you know, 5 to 10 times.
Yeah.
So, you know, this would definitely give him, a decent chance, you know, from the looks of it already.
He can pretty much like heal his wounds, and then also what happens is like,
Excuse
let's
me.
say he gets like his arm cut, you know, really badly, or it's like removed or whatever. Let's say it gets healed back, but then he can like punch like way harder than before, so he can amplify his power and things like that.
One
Which, when you
punch.
think about it, his Bankai is kind of weird for his character, but still, it's a very weird Bankai, and even the Quincy's were all just like what the hell's that?
What's
Like,
going
they don't
on?
really think about Bankai
So
like that.
confusing.
But as for like what he could do, so in the actual battle itself, you know, you've got to factor in a lot of things. So you've got like Urahara being a threat to Aizen, where now that he's finally fused with the Hogyoku, he believes that he's surpassed Urahara in every conceivable way. Now,
Yeah.
I would be
Yeah, I
interested to
think
see
that as
what
well. I'm
the
like, oh, way
translation
beyond all
of
you
that statement
bitches.
was, because it's really interesting, because he basically says two contradicting statements. So Aizen says, my power, which was unmatched in the Soul Society, right? But then he says, I've now surpassed you, Urahara, as I am right now. So it's like,
Wait,
it's a little weird,
which is it?
like, does he mean intelligence? Does he mean
Yeah.
in sort of a hateful
Am
way,
I-
where he's obviously
Yeah.
talking in a very sort of like, you know, it's obviously a very dislikable way. Like, he obviously doesn't have a lot of like towards Urahara.
Obviously, he doesn't have a lot of like to anybody.
Even at the end of the series, he's like, how could you submit yourself to something like that? You know, a man of your intelligence, it's disgusting. You know, like, he's really pissed off in that regard. So maybe he's saying it in some sort of weird jealous sort of tone, where he's just like, I've now surpassed you in every way, because he knows how smart Urahara is. Or he means strength. If he means strength, it makes things really weird, because it's like, wait, Urahara is like in that same level of like, you know, like slashing and speed power as Yamamoto, because because Aizen says like he was unsure if he could beat Yamamoto, but he's like equating Urahara to that same level. I personally believe it means like intelligence, and also like
Like how
other
clever
sort
he
of,
is,
like,
yeah.
facet when it comes to Urahara. But if it's power, it's very hard to give Ulquiorra a bit of a chance here. But again, that depends on how you scale Ulquiorra, because of the Halberd stuff and Yamamoto's quotes, and then
Yeah,
you know,
like
how
what
strong
everyone
is the second
says and
release,
what
or
happens.
If Aizen doesn't know about it, or maybe
Yeah, did Aizen? That's the thing. Did Aizen know about the
It's really complicated.
other
but
release?
to go back to what I was gonna say, so if we include all these things, like, you know, his Bankai, all the Kitos and so on, he could heal himself plenty of times, make himself way stronger. He could use lots of Kitos to basically create diversions. He could use the Gigai to maybe dodge an attack or two. I doubt it would work more than once though, just because Ulquiorra is much smarter than Yami is.
He's very,
so
yeah,
I could see
very much so. The
He's
intelligence
also
is
quite intelligent
way
too.
higher.
So he would keep an eye on that. He also is like much faster than Yami is, and then if he's in his second release form, you know, he can also heal himself from certain wounds. If that like wrist keto was planted on Ulquiorra's wrist, he would explode from the inside and die, because he wouldn't have the Hogyoku to save him.
That's true.
I think it's pretty much GG from there. But the risk of actually getting near Ulquiorra and using that is really difficult.
He's so
But I would
fast.
say, it's weird, because it's like he should have the speed advantage, he should have the slashing
Yeah.
advantage, like with raw power, he should have the explosive advantage, because the Lanzador Lampago seems to be bigger and more impressive than anything Urahara's done in terms of just raw DC. So Urahara needs to somehow maybe use the Gigai, get near Ulquiorra, touch his wrist real quickly without getting his head like backhanded off
Yeah,
his
like,
shoulder
just
from the
touch him quick.
strength. Or I don't know, he uses his Bankai to like amp his own strength so he can quickly get near him really fast, or he uses like a heap of Kitos, like that scene where he's standing in midair and he's like waving his wand around like he's a Harry Potter character, and he's like, take that, Aizen, Abracadabra, like, you know, he's like whipping out this
Expelliarmus.
this
That's a Harry Potter spell, isn't it?
It all depends, from my perspective, with my final take on this, how you interpret the Aizen quote, because if Aizen actually does believe that Urahara is in fact, you know, in that same level of power as he is when he's just in, you know, Shikai, pre-getting the Hogyoku and stuff, that's hard to say that Ulquiorra would have a chance based on the statement made about the Espada, where Aizen is above all of the Espada. But if the second release is actually a secret form that even Aizen doesn't know about, or that statement doesn't
That's a
even
thing,
apply
does he know?
to, you know, what Gin said about him being above, you know, all of the Espada, because, you know, even Gin doesn't know about it, but Aizen does. Then it's really weird. Then it becomes really confusing on how you interpret it, you know. Is it a secret form? Does Aizen know? You know, is Aizen saying that the Vaso Lorde considering he complemented his power and that's the thing he was expecting to fight, does that mean that Ulquiorra and the Master Lorde are like threats to him and his Shikai form? Are they above Urahara? Like, again, my final take, I think that Ulquiorra wins in his second release form because of the amount of destruction he can cause and his speed and how difficult he would be to even like land a Keto on. But I also think that if you give every benefit of the doubt, you know, the real, you know, the most ideal situation for Urahara, where he can take full advantage of using diversions with the Gi guys, different Ketos, land seals on him, you know, use multiple different combinations of Ketos, mix his Bonkai in there, so on and so forth. And then the Aizen statement, he could definitely win, but I generally do drift towards Ulquiorra in this battle. And I think that second release Ulquiorra, with the multiplier from the Lanzador Lampago and the Seto Oscuras and the Grand Rey Zero would, if it lands, it would literally kill Urahara in a single attack.
Right.
My final thoughts, and I'll let Chuck finish the video, but my final thoughts are, again, if you want to give Urahara like this really, you know, in-depth, planned out sort of fight where he has all the advantages, he can come up with like this 5-stage, no more, 10-stage plan.
Oh yeah, if he's got everything planned out.
Land Ketos on Ulquiorra, land different other Ketos to bind him and blow him up from the inside or hit him from a distance and so on. Use Bonkai to heal himself while amping his speed and attack power and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then also the Aizen quote. Sure, I guess you could say Urahara wins, but I generally, as someone who's been scaling Bleach for years, I lean towards Ulquiorra in this battle, and I do believe that he has the speed advantage, the defense advantage, the destructive capability advantage, and I personally think that Ulquiorra wins in this battle. And
damn, okay, there we go.
yeah, again, Aizen wasn't scared to send Yami and Ulquiorra to the world of the living.
Yeah, he sent them on all the missions, I guess. Yeah, cool.
And they both have secret release.
Let's see
what
Chuck
than
thinks.
the other Espada are shown to be, whereas those two have very, you know, a lot of secret powers, obviously.
Interesting discussion
Yeah,
of
that's
this.
my
Like,
final
go on.
thoughts
Ulquiorra clearly does have, like, you know, the raw power advantage and speed
Yeah.
advantage. He was able to somewhat keep up with Vasto Lorde.
Which is a big deal.
And, you know, as we said, like, you know, a Seto, a Gran Rey Seto are already really powerful on their own, and this will
Ooh,
have
excuse me.
attacks that are stronger than that. You basically have to argue that for Kisuke to harm him, that his abilities would have to be like Vasto Lorde level. So, I don't know about that. Unless, obviously, you use, like, the interpretation that Aizen meant, like, you know, that he was obviously more powerful than him. Or that, like, basically, like, he hadn't surpassed him until he got to Hokyoku. And then, like, you know, once Kisuke sees that, like, Ulquiorra is, you know, has crazy-ass power and speed, he's gonna be very wary, and he's gonna try to use, like, his Gi-Guy, like, decoys,
Yeah.
to catch, like, an attack or two that would have heavily hurt him, if not killed him. But, you know, Ulquiorra, he's gonna see past it, right? He's gonna be like,
And then
okay,
just keep
why are you so
going.
blind,
He's
bro?
very
Like, he's just gonna
aggressive in the way he
needlessly break
fights.
it.
Like, look at the way he grabbed Ichigo's face and was like, oh, I'm showing how what you're in for.
Kisuke could, you know, maybe take a couple of attacks, you know, repair himself, become stronger with his Bankai. You know, Ulquiorra, you know, he doesn't really around.
No, he don't. That's what I'm saying. Like, he just literally, as soon as Ichigo was down, he's like, I'm grabbing your head and I'm showing you how what you're in for.
And it's actually really interesting, too, because with Aizen, he was obviously...
He likes to play around with everyone.
Around with them.
Okay, there we go.
To see how the Hokyoku would help him, you know, survive these attacks. But, you know, Ulquiorra, you know, if he's there to kill someone, he will do it, you know. But yeah, guys, you know, we were brainstorming a lot. We were analyzing stuff again from the manga and guidebooks, you know. We thought it was a really good battle idea. I really hope that you guys believe so as well. Please check out Clyde's channel. He does really good analyses on Bleach stuff. You know,
He does. I've reacted to every single Bleach video that's on his channel.
Stuff like that, so
I think.
Check those out. Please let us know if, you know, once again, you want to see, like, more versus battles, you know.
Hell yeah, I mean, you've got one more up at the moment.
Free-for-all or something, or, like, you know, a really good one that you mentioned was, you know, Graham Zhao against Noitora.
Yeah, videos like that would be really cool. Or I got asked this on stream, actually. What if we did a video, say, could Vasto Lorde Ichigo, you know, solo the Espada, like something like that? I mean, the answer's kind of obvious, but it's still a fun topic to talk about. Oh, here's a cool one that would get them hyped, to be honest, if they've listened this far through the video. And if you have listened this far through the video, thank you a lot.
You're a real one.
You just leave a like on the video. Yeah, you're a real one. But if you want to get hyped for a video that Chuck and I could do, Yamamoto versus Ichibei would be pretty fun.
That's the one that we've done next.
Yeah,
so they're collabing that one.
As well. I don't just do Bleach, I also do like Dragon
so that is and we'll be checking that out in a couple of days. Cool.
So if any of
So if that is a collab, I love it. I love it when
let us know, you know, what kind of battles or
when it comes to these things, two people to have the discussion. Awesome.
Cover. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you thotties next time. Peace out.
Awesome. So it's another collab then, hopefully, because that's what is the next one that I want to check out. Class, I did enjoy that. That was a really interesting discussion. I like these verses, especially when, like I said, there's two people talking about it. It's fun. It's like when Seth and Swag do videos together. It's awesome. It's like, it just adds a little bit of extra to the video. But yeah, cool. Unsure now. I was very much Urahara at the start, but I was like, oh, very valid points on both sides. But anyway, thank you to my patrons. If you want to have your name at the end of every video, upload a link to the description of the Patreon page. $1 a month is the last help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much for that, and thank you all for watching. What do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos, and I'll see you guys next time.